A heartless thug slapped an 80-year-old grandmother to the floor inside a crowded store. Her cane dropped. Her Christmas cookies shattered. And everyone just watched, too scared to move. He laughed, believing he was untouchable, that no one would ever stand up to him. But he made one fatal mistake. He didn't know her son is a Navy SEAL, and he was only minutes away from walking through that door, with his loyal German Shepherd K9 partner, trained to protect and never back down. Tonight, justice is coming home for Christmas. Before we begin, comment where you're watching from, and if you believe no elderly person should ever face cruelty alone, please like, subscribe, and comment Amen to show your support. A thin veil of snow drifted over Evergreen Falls, quieting the world beneath shimmering holiday lights. The cozy little mountain town seemed wrapped in silver calm, except inside the heart of one elderly woman who waited for the most important Christmas of her life. Evelyn Parker, 80 years old, stood in the warmth of her living room, staring at a single red stocking pinned above the fireplace. She was small and fragile in appearance, just a little over 5 feet tall, with soft white hair always pinned into a neat bun, and a face lined with decades of love, loss, and endurance. Her pale blue eyes carried a gentleness that many mistook for weakness, but beneath their softness shimmered iron forged through wartime widowhood and years spent raising a son while juggling 2 jobs at the local bakery and library. Now retired, she filled her days with knitting, church volunteering, and waiting for phone calls from her only child, Michael Parker, a decorated Navy SEAL. He had promised to come home this Christmas, even if only for a few days. She had rehearsed the hug she wanted to give him, the words of pride she never said enough. Evelyn gently held a wool sweater, deep green with embroidered snowflakes, folded carefully on the table. It was his Christmas gift, stitched by her trembling fingers over many late nights. She imagined how his strong shoulders would fill the fabric, how he would laugh and pretend it fit perfectly, even if it hung too tight across his muscles. For him, she would bake gingerbread cookies just like the ones he loved when he was 10. She could still picture the crumbs clinging to his freckled cheeks and the way he'd hug her without caring that his hands were sticky with icing. Tonight, she would go to Evergreen Mart, the small convenience store just down the street, to buy ingredients and a few festive treats to surprise him. She wrapped her favorite warm scarf around her neck, cream-colored wool gifted by Michael years ago, and stepped out into the cold. Snowflakes landed on her eyelashes as she walked slowly along the sidewalk. She was careful with every step. A hip surgery 2 years ago had taught her a painful respect for icy pavement, but her excitement carried her forward. The town around her glowed cheerful under playful strings of lights, families gathering at the diner, teenagers throwing snowballs, little children laughing in the soft glow of holiday magic. Yet Evelyn felt the loneliness that often stalks older hearts. She had spent last Christmas alone watching the clock, waiting for a phone call that never came because duty does not pause for holidays. This year, she whispered a quiet prayer. Please, Lord, let him come home safe. Evergreen Mart's automatic door chimed as she entered. The warmth and scent of cinnamon immediately embraced her. Inside, the store was simple but festive. Paper snowflakes taped to the windows, shelves stacked with bright red boxes of candy canes. A young woman behind the counter smiled brightly at Evelyn. This was Lucy Morales, 26, petite with caramel brown skin and thick dark curls tied into a ponytail. Lucy had a lively kindness in her eyes, though a flicker of caution always lingered there. Growing up in a rougher part of town had taught her to read trouble before it arrived. She worked long shifts to save money for nursing school, but she always made time to treat older customers with softness, especially Evelyn. "Evening, Mrs. Parker," she greeted cheerfully. "Doing some last-minute Christmas shopping?" "Just trying to make a perfect welcome home for my boy," Evelyn replied, her voice trembling with both pride and nerves. Lucy smiled. "He's lucky to have you." Evelyn's cheeks warmed with humility. She browsed slowly, selecting gingerbread mix, cinnamon, chocolate chips, and a festive tin with reindeer so she could pack cookies beautifully. She also found a small rope toy shaped like a candy cane. It was for Valor, Michael's partner, a 4-year-old German shepherd with alert brown eyes, strong, sleek muscles, and a job that demanded bravery not every dog was born with. Evelyn had only met him through video calls, but she already adored him. "A hero deserves a Christmas treat, too," she whispered fondly to herself. There were 2 other customers in the shop. One was Jason Miller, a 19-year-old college student home for break. Tall and skinny, with sandy hair always peeking out under his beanie, he filmed everything with his smartphone. He dreamed of becoming a famous vlogger, though so far, his channel mostly featured awkward product reviews. He gave Evelyn a shy smile before returning to editing his video. The other was a large man in his late 30s named Travis Boyd. He had a bulky frame padded with beer belly rather than muscle, and a thick brown beard that looked more unwashed than stylish. His clothes, a cracked leather jacket and ripped jeans, suggested a life lived without much care. His small eyes carried impatience and a deep, simmering resentment, the kind formed from years of blaming the world for his own failings. Evelyn kept her distance. Her instincts tightened around men with tempers. She remembered too clearly how anger could turn into fists. She placed her items carefully on the counter. As Lucy began scanning them, Evelyn fumbled with her purse. Her fingers, stiff with arthritis, struggled with the zipper. She apologized softly, embarrassed. Time had become an enemy she couldn't rush. Jason noticed her struggle and nearly stepped forward to help, but the sudden slam of Travis's items onto the counter froze him in place. Travis growled, "Hurry up, Grandma, I don't have all day." The words pierced deeper than the winter wind outside. Evelyn looked up, startled but trying to maintain her dignity. "I'm sorry. I'm almost done." Travis scoffed, crossing his thick arms. His presence felt like a storm cloud blotting out the soon holiday warmth. Evelyn's heartbeat fluttered nervously, her confidence wavering. She hated feeling slow. She hated feeling like a burden. She hated that a stranger's cruelty could make her feel small inside her own hometown. Lucy stepped forward protectively. "Sir, she was here first. Please wait your turn." Travis glared at her. "Is that how you talk to customers? You don't decide my place in line." Evelyn's mouth went dry. Her hands shook. She desperately wanted to finish and leave, but she could feel that Travis's aggression was growing. He took a step closer. Too close. Too threatening. She thought of Michael, how he'd always told her, "If someone scares you, trust that instinct." She swallowed hard, her voice little more than a breath. "Please, just let me finish." Travis leaned in, anger sparking in his eyes. And in that moment, Evelyn knew. Christmas miracles sometimes arrive wearing uniforms and dog tags. But tonight, trouble had arrived first. The snowfall outside continued peacefully, unaware that inside this tiny store, the first shadow had fallen across what should have been a night of joy. And somewhere, not far away, a black SUV rolled through the quiet town, its headlights cutting through the darkness, bringing home someone who would soon become the storm against that shadow. The store felt too small for fear. Evelyn's breath trembled as Travis Boyd stepped closer, his sour breath mixing with the cinnamon-scented air. The elderly woman's fragile dignity strained beneath the weight of his anger. She clutched the counter for balance, her fingers whitening around the edge as if she could anchor herself against the storm brewing inside this convenience store. Lucy Morales kept her posture straight, though fear flickered behind her dark lashes. She was used to rude customers, rushed businessmen, tourists demanding cigarettes, or loud teenagers grabbing snacks after ice skating. But this, a grown man looming over a fragile grandmother, triggered something fierce inside her. A protective instinct sharpened by childhood years, protecting her younger siblings in a neighborhood that didn't tolerate softness. "Sir, please step back," she commanded, her voice steady but tight. Travis's jaw flexed, the muscle near his ear twitching as he scoffed. "Or what? You'll call your mom to come spank me?" He laughed at his own joke, a cruel sound echoing in the stillness. Jason Miller, skinny, tall, fingers trembling, lifted his phone higher. He didn't know what he would do with the footage, but he understood its importance. The lens shook slightly, capturing the fear etched into Evelyn's face. Travis noticed. "Seriously?" He barked at Jason. "Put that thing down before I break it. And your face." Jason's Adam's apple bobbed as he swallowed his terror, but he didn't lower the phone. Unexpected bravery found him in that moment. Bravery born from knowing that someone had to keep the truth alive. Evelyn tried to speak, her voice soft as snow melting. "Please, I just want to pay and go home." Travis snarled. "I said hurry up!" His hand shot forward, slapping her grocery bag off the counter. The sound of falling cookies and cinnamon sticks striking tile was a thunderclap. Evelyn startled backward, her heart thudding painfully. She wasn't afraid of death. Age had made peace with that inevitability. What she feared was the humiliation of being treated like she no longer belonged in the world she helped build. She remembered holding Michael as a baby, believing she would always be able to shield him. But now, she was the one needing protection, and she hated feeling helpless. "That's enough!" Lucy shouted, and reached for her phone under the counter. Travis's gaze snapped toward her. "Don't you dare!" He took a step closer, fists clenched, the tension stretched taut as a violin string. And then the bell above the door chimed. A gust of icy wind swept into the store, sharp, biting, and trailing behind it a presence that changed everything. Michael Parker strode inside, tall, broad-shouldered, wrapped in a dark green flannel jacket dusted with snow. His hair, short, dark blonde, was still damp with melting flakes. His jaw was square, clean-shaven except for a faint shadow of, fatigue from long nights. His blue eyes, calm, trained, deadly, absorbed every detail in less than a second. His mother's groceries on the floor, Lucy frozen with fear, Jason gripping his phone like a lifeline, and the hulking figure standing too close to Evelyn. There was no need for explanations. Threat identified. Threat neutralization imminent. "Mom," he called softly, yet the single word carried more power than a shout. Evelyn looked up at him, and relief flared bright in her eyes. "Michael, you're home." Her voice cracked, emotion tugging at every syllable. Behind Michael, from the shadows just outside the doorway, Valor's head appeared. The German shepherd stepped in with silent precision. His fur gleamed in the store's light, black saddle across a rich tan coat, strong body built from relentless training, and eyes that assessed like a soldier. The moment his gaze locked onto Evelyn's distress, his ears pricked forward, and a low rumble vibrated in his throat. "Watch," Michael ordered, voice low, controlled. Valor flowed forward, not rushing, not barking, simply placing his massive body between Evelyn and the man who had threatened her. It was the kind of stillness that predators possess right before they pounce. Travis blinked, caught between ego and fear. "Who the hell are you?" Michael didn't answer him. Instead, he reached for his mother's hand gently, every movement calculated so as not to startle her. His thumb brushed over the bruise forming beneath her eye. A storm of rage roared inside him, but it was locked behind discipline stronger than steel. "Did he do this?" he asked. Evelyn hesitated. She never wanted her son to know pain touched her life when he wasn't there, but silence was no longer her safe place. She nodded. The air froze into something razor-sharp. Michael rose from his crouch with the kind of grace that belongs only to warriors and wild animals. Valor stepped forward in tandem, muscle coiling. Travis tried to puff himself up again. "Back off. This is between me and the old lady." Michael's voice became a blade. "It is now between you and me." Jason's phone recorded everything. The trembling courage, the intimidation shattered, the arrival of the protector. Lucy dared to breathe again. Evelyn clutched her son's arm, afraid of violence but more afraid of him walking away. Travis tried to laugh, but fear soured the sound. "You think I'm scared of some weekend gym rat?" Michael didn't blink. "I'm a Navy SEAL!" The color drained from Travis's face. Silence swallowed the room. The bell jingled again as the wind outside picked up. Snow pressed against the windows like 1,000 watching witnesses. Michael stepped forward, unshakable. Valor's growl deepened, his eyes never leaving Travis. The bully's kingdom, the tiny imaginary empire of fear he ruled, collapsed around him with every breath Michael took. He opened his mouth to speak. Then, Chapter 2 ends here. Suspended on the edge of impact, the whole town of Evergreen Falls about to learn what happens when someone harms a Navy SEAL's mother. The silence in Evergreen Mart felt like the pause before an avalanche. Danger suspended, waiting for gravity to take over. Travis Boyd stood frozen, his bravado wilting under the lethal calm radiating from Michael Parker. Evelyn clutched her son's sleeve, her heart divided between gratitude and fear that violence would spill into something irreversible. Valor remained positioned ahead, muscles taut beneath his black and tan coat, his presence a silent oath of protection. Michael's gaze sharpened. He didn't raise his voice when he spoke. Trained men didn't need volume to command attention. "Step away from my mother." Travis swallowed, throat bobbing. His mind tried to form a retort, but his instincts screamed caution. He attempted a shaky grin. "This is just misunderstanding. I was only—" "No," Michael cut him short. "I saw enough." Lucy, chest rising and falling fast, finally found her voice again. "I've got the whole thing on camera too. Security footage records everything." She gestured toward a black dome camera in the ceiling corner. Travis shot a hateful glare at her. "You'd better delete," but before he could finish, Valor stepped forward a fraction of an inch, a warning that felt like a countdown. Jason Miller, still filming, realized his footage might become the kind of viral moment that changed lives. He didn't feel proud of capturing this horror, but he knew the world needed to see how an elderly woman was treated. At last, Michael looked directly into Travis's eyes, his voice low, but buried in steel. Apologize to her. Travis's fists curled until his knuckles whitened. The bully inside him wanted to roar, but a man who has never faced true danger always miscalculates the size of his own strength. Evelyn gently shook her head, surprising everyone. "No, Michael," she whispered. "Anyone can force an apology, but it doesn't make it true." Her voice, frail but unwavering, struck deeper than any threat could. Travis didn't know what to do with dignity. He coughed, scoffed, and muttered something unintelligible. Michael stepped closer, so controlled it was terrifying. "Last chance," he said. "Walk away before this becomes something you can't undo." Travis backed away until his shoulders bumped into a shelf of candy canes, a cascade of red and white sticks clattering to the floor like collapsing pride. He grabbed his beer and, with a final panicked glance toward Valor, shoved past the nearest aisle, practically sprinting out the front door. The bell chimed violently as it closed behind him. Relief didn't come instantly. Sometimes fear lingers after the threat is gone, taking time to release its hold. Evelyn exhaled shakily. Lucy leaned on the register like she might collapse. Jason lowered his phone, his hands trembling as adrenaline drained from his system. Michael bent to pick up the fallen groceries, never taking his eyes off the door, his instincts still hunting for danger. "Are you hurt?" he asked his mother softly. Evelyn forced a reassuring smile, though her cheeks still throbbed. "Nothing a gingerbread cookie won't fix." It was humor wrapped around truth. She was hurt, but her spirit remained standing tall. As they gathered the items, the door opened again. But this time, no bully entered, only a man wearing a thick navy blue officer's jacket with a sheriff badge pinned to his chest. His name was Sheriff Daniel Ross. He appeared to be in his late 40s, with short chestnut hair graying at the edges and a rugged, square jaw covered in the faint shadow of stubble. His eyes, hazel and observant, carried the tired wisdom of someone who had seen too many lives unravel from bad decisions. Daniel Ross was a man known in Evergreen Falls as fair but firm, the type who brought dinner to elderly widows one night and arrested drunk troublemakers the next. He had raised his young daughter alone after his wife left years ago, leaving him with a protective streak that had only grown stronger. He noticed the tension instantly. "I got a call about a disturbance," he said, scanning the room like someone who never missed details. Lucy stepped forward first, voice steadier now. "It was Travis Boyd. He shoved her things, threatened us, and—" But her throat caught before mentioning the hit. Jason swallowed and added, "I recorded everything." Sheriff Ross nodded, as if he already expected that from Jason. Everyone in town knew the boy's obsession with filming. Then he turned to Evelyn, voice lowering with genuine concern. "Mrs. Parker, are you all right?" She touched her cheek gently. "I'll be fine, but no one should be treated that way." Ross's eyes hardened. "You're right, and he won't walk away from this." Michael stepped forward, shoulders still tense, Valor glued to his side. Sheriff Ross studied him a moment longer than expected. Recognition dawned. "You're Michael Parker, the Navy SEAL." Michael didn't brag. He simply nodded. Ross's voice warmed with respect. "Your mother talks about you at the town bake sales." Evelyn's cheeks turned pink. "Well, I might mention him once or twice." The sheriff smiled softly, then shifted back into duty. "We'll take official statements, and Travis will face charges." Evelyn's heart swelled, not with vengeance, but with relief that the law in her town was still stronger than fear. Ross took brief notes, then said he'd locate Travis immediately. Before he left, he touched the brim of his hat toward Evelyn, a gesture of honor she had long forgotten the feeling of. The store slowly returned to normal. Lucy resumed scanning items for Evelyn, treating each one with gentle care. Jason asked if she wanted the video sent to her for evidence. Michael stayed close, hand resting on Valor's collar, grounding his fury in calm. That night, for the first time in years, Evelyn felt safe. Not because she was alone and unnoticed, but because she was seen, defended, and respected. As Michael guided his mother toward the exit, snow continued falling outside, whispering a promise that this Christmas would not be stolen by fear. It had only just begun to turn into a miracle. Snow kept falling over Evergreen Falls, but inside Michael's mind, the storm had only begun. He helped his mother into the passenger seat of his black SUV, Valor hopping into the back with a soft grunt. Evelyn winced slightly as the seatbelt brushed her sore shoulder. Michael noticed, his jaw tightening with silent fury. He refused to unleash without purpose. "I'm fine," Evelyn insisted, patting his arm as if comforting a child instead of a Navy SEAL built to confront the world's worst. It could have been worse. Michael shook his head slowly. It should never have happened. Before driving off, he glanced back at Evergreen Mart. Through the frosted glass, Lucy and Jason waved, relieved but still shaken. He gave a nod, promising silently he would keep trouble from returning. The SUV pulled away, tires crunching snow as streetlights cast long shadows in the quiet night. Inside the car, the heater hummed. Evelyn turned her face toward the window, watching lights ripple across the lake. "You came home early," she finally said, with a tender smile blooming like dawn. "I wanted to surprise you," Michael replied, voice softening. "Didn't expect this." Valor leaned forward, placing his chin gently on Evelyn's shoulder. She stroked the dog's fur, whispering, "You're a Christmas angel, aren't you?" Valor's ears flicked, sensing affection and lingering danger all at once. His loyalty was instinct, not training alone. As they neared the cozy wooden house by the lake, a young neighbor emerged from the adjacent driveway. Amelia Carter, about 30, tall and slender with auburn hair tucked under a knitted hat, waved them down. Her pale skin flushed pink from the cold, and her hazel eyes sparkled with concern. Amelia was a kindergarten teacher known for soft laughter and a fiercely protective heart, qualities shaped by losing her younger brother in a car accident years ago. That heartbreak taught her kindness wasn't weakness, but a shield. "Mrs. Parker?" she called, jogging over. "Sheriff Ross called me. Are you all right?" Evelyn smiled gently, though the bruise on her cheek darkened beneath the porch light. "Just a small encounter with bad manners." Amelia's hands curled into fists inside her mittens. "Travis Boyd again? He tried scaring the O'Haras last week and threw a trash bin at a teenager who asked him to move his truck." Michael's attention sharpened. "He's a regular problem, then?" Amelia nodded grimly. "Anger issues, lots of alcohol, and nobody brave enough to push back." Her eyes drifted to Michael with newfound gratitude. "Until you came home." Michael assisted his mother indoors, and Amelia followed with the groceries. The house was warm, filled with the scent of pine from the freshly decorated tree. Photos lined the mantel. Evelyn holding baby Michael, Michael in uniform, and a framed picture of a German Shepherd puppy with big ears. Valor's first portrait. The table. Holiday cards lay scattered, some from neighbors, a few from Michael's fellow SEALs. As Amelia arranged the items on the counter, Valerie, an elderly calico cat belonging to Evelyn, round-bodied with patches of orange and gray fur, ambled into the room. She blinked golden eyes at Valor as if reminding him she ruled this house. He lowered his head respectfully. Amelia chuckled. "Even your cat has authority." Evelyn looked humbled. "I've never been one for raising voices, but today made me realize silence can hurt too." Valor moved quietly to the front window, posture alert again. Michael followed his gaze. A dark sedan rolled slowly down the street, stopping briefly by the mailbox before continuing. He tracked it with narrowed eyes, wondering if trouble lingered behind a steering wheel. Meanwhile, Amelia tugged off her mittens. "Jason posted the video online," she said. "It's spreading fast. People are furious and proud of your son." Evelyn bit her lip, a flicker of worry crossing her features. "I don't want revenge. Just dignity." Michael placed his hand on hers, steady as a promise. "And you have it." Moments later, a sharp ping from Michael's phone interrupted the peace. It was a message from an old teammate, Corporal Ben Lawson, a sturdy, broad-shouldered veteran with dark skin and a trademark dry humor. He was stationed 2 states away, but always monitored news for signs Michael might need backup. The message read, "Saw the video. You okay? Need support?" Michael typed back, "I've got it handled, but thank you." Ben replied instantly, "Call if that changes. Valor better keep you out of trouble." A brief smile tugged Michael's mouth. Brotherhood forged in battle never faded. Evelyn sat on the couch, her hands wrapped around a steaming mug of tea Amelia prepared. "I feel foolish," she admitted quietly. "I should have stood up to him. Instead, I froze." Michael knelt in front of her, hands firm on her knees. "You didn't freeze. You endured. That requires strength." His voice carried the weight of every civilian he'd sworn to protect. Bullies exist because they believe fear means obedience. But today proved fear can be met with courage. From anyone. Evelyn's eyes shimmered. Not with fear now, but pride. Outside, the snow eased into a gentle drift. The lights of Evergreen Falls twinkled like watchful stars. The moment held warmth, but beneath it, tension coiled like a wire. Travis Boyd had slunk away, but he wasn't done. Humiliation burns hotter in wounded egos than justice ever could. Valor let out a soft but unmistakable growl toward the door. Michael stood instantly, every sense alert. He flipped the porch light on. Snowflakes danced harmlessly in the illumination. Nothing seemed out of place. Yet the dog didn't relax. Michael whispered to himself, "Round one's over." He looked back at his mother, her fragile safety, now his mission. But this isn't done. Not yet. And with that quiet vow, Christmas in Evergreen Falls shifted. It was no longer just a season of peace. It was a battleground where love refused to be intimidated. Morning crept into Evergreen Falls wearing a quiet coat of white. The snow outside sparkled beneath a pale winter sun, as if trying to pretend the world was simple and kind. Inside Evelyn Parker's home, however, peace was a delicate thread, easily broken. Michael Parker stood by the kitchen window, coffee cooling in his hand, eyes scanning the road like a watchtower sentinel. Hours of sleep had eluded him. The bruise on Evelyn's cheek seemed darker in daylight, and every time he looked at it, a new wave of guilt rose inside him, like a tide he couldn't stop. He had faced war zones without hesitation, Yet seeing his mother hurt made him feel more human and more dangerous than any battlefield did. Valor sat at his side, tail completely still, ears trained forward toward the faint hum of a distant engine. The dog never assumed safety. He only recognized threats late or soon. Evelyn moved slowly, setting a plate of warm gingerbread cookies on the table. Her fingers were slightly swollen from arthritis, but she refused to rest. "You hover like I'm made of glass," she chuckled, though her voice held a fragile quiver. Michael turned, softening. "I just want to make sure you're okay." She nodded, eyes gentle. "You already did that. Last night was enough." But the knock that sounded at the door stole away the illusion of safety. Valor reacted instantly, hackles raised, posture shifting into a defensive stance. Michael put down his coffee calmly, but with urgency in every movement. He opened the door only after confirming the figure outside wasn't a threat, at least not physically. Sheriff Daniel Ross stood there, wrapped in a thick uniform jacket with fresh snow dusting his shoulders. He looked tired, as if the night hadn't been kind to him either. Yet his determined hazel eyes carried reassurance. Michael stepped back, allowing him in. Evelyn greeted him with a polite smile, though she kept her hand close to Valor's fur. "I have news," Ross began, removing his gloves. "We found Travis Boyd early this morning." The sheriff's tone turned flat. "He was drunk. Tried to deny everything until we mentioned the videos." Jason's footage, a shaky, courageous witness, had already spread through the town like wildfire. The entire community now knew Evelyn Parker had been attacked by the local bully. They also knew a Navy SEAL and a trained military dog were now in town, and that balance of fear had shifted. "He's furious about the humiliation," Ross added, "but he's temporarily sobered by the charges. We'll put him in holding until the judge is available." Evelyn swallowed, relief and worry dueling inside her. Michael just nodded once. That wasn't victory. It was breathing space. Ross hesitated before continuing. "There's more." An unknown account posted Jason's video to a major veterans group online. "It's going viral nationwide now." He handed Michael his phone. Headlines filled the screen. "Navy SEAL's mom assaulted. German Shepherd steps in. Heroic return home turns into battle. Evergreen Falls, stand up for your elders" comments flooded the pages. "Find that bully. Where's the justice? Give that dog a medal. We must protect seniors like her." Evelyn read a few, breath-catching. "Oh dear. I didn't mean to cause such a stir." Michael touched her shoulder. "You didn't cause anything. He did." Ross nodded. "There's support coming in, but—" He scratched his chin, hesitation appearing like rust. "Attention like this brings unwanted eyes, too." Before they could ask, Ross continued. "Travis isn't alone in his anger. He's got friends, men who share his attitude." He avoided harsher words out of respect for Evelyn. "The kind who view your son's bravery as an insult rather than something to admire." Just then, tires crunched outside. Michael moved toward the window, every muscle coiled. A car he didn't recognize slowed near the driveway. The driver glanced toward the house and sped away. "See?" Ross sighed. "The attention is drawing watchers." Valor let out a deep growl that worked its way from chest to air like a warning shot. Evelyn trembled slightly. "So what should we do?" Michael answered before the sheriff could. "We protect what's ours." Ross studied him. The sheriff had handled troublemakers for 2 decades, but the look in Michael's blue eyes was a reminder. This man fought darkness on a global scale. "Just be careful," Ross said. "We can't afford revenge or vigilante justice. Let us enforce the law." Michael's jaw tightened. Justice doesn't always arrive on time. Ross held his stare a moment, then nodded with reluctant understanding. "I'll increase patrols around the house." Before leaving, the sheriff placed a card on the table. "My direct number. Any hour. Any reason." Evelyn thanked him, trying to appear brave. When the door closed, she exhaled shakily. "I never wanted you caught in a fight here," she told Michael, eyes shimmering. "You deserved rest. Peace." He knelt beside her again. "My peace is wherever you are safe, Mom." She traced a wrinkled hand over his cheek. "You've protected the country long enough. Let me protect you this Christmas by asking you not to start a war in our tiny town." Valor nudged Michael's arm as if urging patience. Michael stood and finally allowed himself a small smile. "Okay, but staying alert isn't starting a war." He moved to the fireplace and adjusted the new stockings Evelyn had hung. One embroidered with his name, one for valor, shaped like a bone. A quiet promise shimmered in the air. This home would not be threatened again. Snow continued to fall like feathers from angels' wings outside. Yet in the soft glow of the living room, one thing had changed permanently. Evelyn was no longer alone. A protector had returned. 2 in fact, and their presence would echo far beyond the walls of this small home in Evergreen Falls. Darkness settled over Evergreen Falls like a heavy blanket, muffling the world beneath moonlit snow. Most houses glowed warmly behind frosted windows. Families safe inside, counting gifts, baking pies, laughing. But at the Parker home, the night carried tension sharp enough to taste. Michael Parker double-checked the locks, every window, every entry point. He worked silently, like a soldier preparing for an overnight watch in enemy territory. Valor lay near the front door, muscles coiled, ears forward, alert without rest. His fur, thick and warm, rose slightly at every stray pulse of wind or crunch of settling snow. Evelyn Parker tried to read by the fireplace, book trembling in her aging hands, though she pretended otherwise. She was dressed in a cozy burgundy cardigan, her silver hair loose tonight, a softness that made Michael even more determined to guard her. She smiled weakly at him when their eyes met, as if to say, "I trust you more than I fear anything else." The clock struck 9:47 p.m. Too early for trouble, yet Michael felt it coming. A knock broke the silence. 3 slow, deliberate pounds. Valor stood instantly, a low growl vibrating from chest to ground. Michael motioned for Evelyn to stay seated. His hand slid instinctively toward his belt. No weapon there. But his body itself was a weapon when needed. He opened the door just a crack. On the porch stood Riley Turner, a 21-year-old deputy recently hired by Sheriff Ross. Riley had freckles dusted across his cheeks and sandy blonde hair tucked under a beanie too big for his small frame. His hazel eyes held determination, but also nervous youth. He respected authority deeply, shaped by growing up with a father who left him early in life. That wound hardened his pride and made him desperately want to prove he belonged. "Evening, sir," Riley said, breath puffing fog. "Sheriff asked me to do rotating patrols. Just checking in." Michael studied him. Thin shoulders, gloved hands fidgeting at his belt. A kid, but trying to be more. "Thank you." Michael replied calmly. Anything unusual? Riley hesitated. Sheriff questioned Travis's buddies. A couple seemed angry, the kind of angry that doesn't burn out overnight. Valor growled, nose pointed toward the road beyond Riley. Snow crunched faintly. Footsteps? Tires? Hard to tell. A metallic crash shattered the quiet. It came from the side yard. A garbage bin tipping. Not an accident. Michael stepped outside faster than Riley could react, Valor at his heel like a shadow with teeth. The night air bit into their skin. Michael scanned the dark. Trees swayed, flakes drifting through the beam of the porch light. Then voices, hushed but taunting. You sure this is the place? Yeah, this is Navy Punk's house. He thinks he's a hero. We'll show him what happens to pushy outsiders. Riley's eyes widened. Travis's crew, he whispered. Michael quietly pushed Evelyn's car remote. In his pocket, headlights flashed, illuminating two figures near the fence. One tall and lanky, wearing a camo jacket. The other shorter but broad-shouldered, hood pulled low. The tall one, Derek Hale, a wiry man in his late 30s with scruffy stubble and eyes too wild, had a reputation for brawling at bars. His bitterness came from a failed football career after a knee injury crushed his future. He hated men who still had purpose. The shorter one, Mark Dunn, early 40s with a shaved head and jaw that jutted aggressively, worked odd jobs but lost them frequently due to violent temper. He distrusted authority, envied anyone who earned respect. Valor barked once, a piercing crack through the cold. Derek jumped. They got a freaking police dog. He's not police, Michael corrected, stepping fully into the light like judgment incarnate. He's military, and he doesn't like threats. Mark spat into the snow. Old lady shouldn't have run her mouth. Michael's voice dropped into lethal calm. She didn't. You hurt her anyway. Derek, emboldened by alcohol and companionship, lifted a brick. What are you gonna do, arrest us? No, Michael said. But the sheriff will, if you're still standing. Before the men could move, Riley stepped forward, voice ringing louder than he expected. Drop the brick. Hands up. His hand hovered over his holster, fear and bravery wrestling behind his wide eyes. Mark sneered. Kid's shaking. He'll never pull the trigger. Michael positioned himself between Riley and the intruders. Leave, he warned. Last chance. Derek laughed. Or what? You'll sick the dog on us? Valor's growl deepened into something primal, like thunder waiting for lightning. Michael spoke one word. Guard. Valor lunged, fast and disciplined, not attacking flesh, but striking fear. He skidded to a stop inches from Derek's leg, teeth bared but controlled. Derek stumbled backward, brick falling from his shaking hand. Mark grabbed Derek's arm. Screw this. We'll handle it another night. They ran, feet slipping across frozen ground, disappearing into darkness. Riley exhaled loudly, knees nearly buckling. Holy, good dog. Valor returned to Evelyn's side, licking her wrist gently as if checking on her heart. Michael placed a hand on Riley's shoulder. You did well. The young deputy blinked with pride he'd long craved. If they come back, I'll handle it. Michael nodded. We handle it. Together. Once Riley left to file a report, Michael locked the door again. He turned to Evelyn, who hadn't moved from the couch, but whose spirit glowed fierce as fire under snow. They're not done, Michael said softly. No, she agreed. but neither are we. And in that quiet home, while the world slept under holiday sparkle, a new strength awakened. One built from love stronger than fear, from an elderly woman who refused to be small, from a warrior who refused to step back, and from a dog who would give his life before letting harm come through that door. Dawn spilled slowly over evergreen falls, turning the snowy landscape into a field of diamonds. Yet beauty could not erase what lurked beneath the frost. In the Parker home, vigilance replaced comfort. Michael Parker had slept lightly on the couch, boots still on, one hand resting on Valor's fur. The German shepherd's ears flicked at every distant sound, ever ready, ever faithful. Evelyn Parker stepped quietly into the kitchen, the steam from her ginger tea swirling like soft ribbons. She watched her son from the doorway, his steady breathing, the tension still clinging to his frame even in rest. She thought of the years he had spent oceans away, fighting strangers for the safety of others. Now the war had followed him home, and that unsettled her more than any bruise. Michael's eyes opened the moment Valor shifted. His instincts never allowed true rest. "Morning," he murmured, stretching stiff muscles forged through discipline and survival. Evelyn smiled with gentle worry. "You look exhausted." "I've had worse," he replied softly. But he scanned the windows again, always the protector. A knock rapped on the door. This time not violent, just hurried. Amelia Carter rushed in when Michael opened the door, her auburn hair messy beneath a wool hat, cheeks pink from sprinting through cold air. She wore a long gray coat and mismatched gloves, a sign she had left in a hurry. "I came as soon as I saw it," she gasped, unlocking her phone with shaky hands. "Jason's video, it's everywhere. National news outlets picked it up this morning." Evelyn wiped her palms nervously on her cardigan. "I didn't want people feeling sorry for me." "It's not pity," Amelia insisted. "It's outrage. It's solidarity." Michael took the phone gently from Amelia. The video now had millions of views. Across comments and headlines, strangers united in fierce defense of one elderly woman in a small Vermont town. "Justice for Evelyn. Protect our seniors. Valor." The hero. A lump formed in Evelyn's throat, fear and gratitude tangled together. Then Amelia showed a different link. "The mayor has issued a statement," she said. Mayor Paul Whitmore, a man in his early 50s with iron-gray hair slicked back too perfectly, and a sharp nose that made every expression appear judgmental, stood at a podium in the clip. Known for his suit, always a size too expensive for the town he governed, he valued reputation like oxygen. His voice, smooth but rehearsed, filled the living room. "We condemn the attack on Mrs. Evelyn Parker. Our community will not tolerate such violence." Evelyn whispered, "That sounds kind." Amelia snorted. "Don't be fooled. He only cares because the world is watching now." Michael nodded. "He wants good PR." As if summoned by his name, the door knocked again. Firmer this time, Michael opened it cautiously. Mayor Whitmore stood outside accompanied by Linda Reeves, the town's public relations coordinator. Linda, late 30s, tall and sharply dressed in a black wool coat, wore perfectly applied makeup and carried a tablet like a weapon. Her brown eyes constantly calculated angles. How things appeared mattered more than how they were. "Mrs. Parker," the mayor greeted with a rehearsed sympathetic smile, stepping inside uninvited but polished. "We came to personally ensure your safety and to promise the attacker will face full consequences." Michael positioned himself subtly between them and his mother. Sheriff Ross already assured us of that. Whitmore's smile didn't falter, but his eyes cooled a degree. Yes, yes, but the town must show its unity. There's a rally tonight in the city square. Support for Mrs. Parker. Speeches, cameras, the works. Evelyn's brow furrowed. A rally? I just want peace. Linda Reeves stepped closer, voice silky. This is a perfect moment to inspire change. Your story is powerful. Michael's glare sharpened. Her story involves a fist to her face. No speeches required. Whitmore straightened, ego pricked. Mr. Parker, the town needs an example of resilience. Michael cut him off. She doesn't exist to be your political mascot. The mayor seemed ready to argue, but a firm knock sounded again. This time it was Sheriff Daniel Ross, breath visible in the cold air, uniform collar turned up. Good morning, he said, eyes narrowing slightly at Whitmore's presence. Mind if I join? Whitmore cleared his throat. Sheriff, I was just explaining. Ross stepped past him to face Evelyn and Michael. Travis made bail. Evelyn gasped, hand flying to her mouth. Ross continued. He's under orders to avoid contact, but his buddies aren't scared. We're increasing patrols. And, he paused, gaze falling on Michael. We interviewed Derek and Mark. They admitted they might come back. Amelia whispered, They're obsessed with revenge. Whitmore held up his palms like a peacekeeper in a suit. No violence will occur. The rally tonight will show the community is united. That should discourage these men. Ross didn't look convinced. Or provoke them. Silence thickened the room. Then Evelyn stood. Not fully steady, not without fear, but with dignity stitched into her spine. I won't let them turn this into a circus, she said. But I also won't be bullied into hiding. Michael looked at her, this woman who once held him through nightmares, and saw courage glowing like a lantern inside her. Mom, she smiled at him warmly, despite everything. You taught me that strength isn't loud, it's steady. Valor pressed his head against her knee as if approving. The mayor seized the moment. So, you'll attend the rally? Michael glared. She'll attend only if it's safe. Ross nodded. Then I'll be there. Kyle and Marissa too. Kyle Brooks, a sturdy deputy with buzzed hair and a deep voice, and Marissa Lynn, a quick-thinking officer with short black hair and sharp gray eyes, would be valuable backup later. Whitmore flashed his politician's grin. Excellent. The town will see its heroes tonight. Once the mayor and Linda left, hot chocolate warmed the room again. But danger still paced outside. Michael knelt by Valor, resting his forehead against the dog's. We protect her, no matter the crowd. Valor licked his cheek, loyalty sealed. As evening drew near, Evergreen Falls began to gather beneath glowing Christmas lights. The world was watching, and the shadows who once controlled fear in this town were about to learn. They no longer owned the night. Snowflakes drifted lazily across Evergreen Falls, like the sky had decided to decorate the night for Christmas itself. In the center of town, the giant Christmas tree glowed radiantly, its golden lights shimmering against silver tinsel. Dozens of townspeople gathered beneath the festive warmth, holding candles, sipping cocoa, speaking softly about unity, courage, and a tiny elderly woman who had inspired them to stand up. Evelyn Parker stood near the front of the crowd, wrapped in her favorite emerald coat with fur trim. A delicate knit hat sat over her silver hair, and her cane rested gently against her leg. The bruise on her cheek had faded from angry crimson to a soft lavender, but the memory still pulsed beneath her skin. Tonight, however, she held her head high, not a victim, but a symbol of dignity. Michael Parker stood just inches behind her, a silent guardian with shoulders broad enough to hold the whole town's worries. His posture was alert, yet calm, hands loose at his sides. The navy blue jacket stretched over his muscled frame looked civilian, but nothing about him could strip away the soldier within. His piercing blue eyes never stopped scanning, from rooftops to alley corners to every shifting silhouette across the crowd. Valor sat at Evelyn's feet, a magnificent 100-pound shield of loyalty. His fur gleamed under the lights, black saddle across tan muscles, tail resting still behind him. Every scent, every movement was evaluated with perfect instinct. Tonight was celebration, but he trusted celebration only after danger surrendered. Sheriff Daniel Ross stepped onto the small wooden stage, his uniform crisp, his presence carrying new weight. After the recent events, people looked at him not as a tired official, but as a leader who chose the right side. His voice carried warmly through the microphone. Tonight, we gather to celebrate community, kindness, and the courage of one of our own, Mrs. Evelyn Parker. The crowd erupted in applause. Evelyn pressed a hand over her heart, overwhelmed by how deeply people cared. Michael leaned close and whispered, "You deserve this, Mom." Before Ross could continue, a commotion stirred near the edge of the square. The atmosphere tightened like a held breath. Michael's muscles locked. Valor stood instantly, ears up, growl simmering deep in his chest. Emerging from the shadowed street was Travis Boyd, the bully himself. His hair was a tangled mess under a torn beanie, his knuckles red from cold or anger. A swollen cheek and a split lip hinted he had picked a fight with the wrong person recently. He moved clumsily, reeking of alcohol and desperation. Trailing close behind were Derek Hale and Mark Dunn, both jittery and panicked, like men precariously balanced between fear and stupidity. Ross's hand drifted toward his holster. "Not tonight, Travis," he warned. Travis ignored him, pointing a wavering finger at Evelyn. All this is because of you." His voice cracked under rage and humiliation. "You turned the whole country against me. My job's gone, my friends. They laugh at me." The crowd murmured angrily. People from quiet houses and simple lives suddenly found steel in their spines because they saw what had been done to one of theirs. Michael stepped forward, tone calm but fierce. "Your choices did that, not her." Travis spat. "Big war hero thinks he can fix everything. Well, maybe your mom doesn't walk away safe this time." He lunged. Valor launched first. The German shepherd slammed into Travis's arm, not biting, just knocking him off balance. Travis fell onto his back, snow spraying like icy fireworks. Derek and Mark stepped forward to help, but the crowd surged, forming a protective wall around Evelyn. Ordinary citizens, baristas, teachers, mechanics, teenagers, became an unbreakable shield. Ross barked commands. "Derek Hale and Mark Dunn, hands where I can see them." Deputies Kyle Brooks and Marissa Lynn moved like lightning, handcuffing both men before they could blink. Travis, scrambling to rise, glared at Evelyn again, eyes burning with twisted pride. But Evelyn took a small step forward, cane tapping the ground with steady resolve. Her calm voice carried more power than any scream. "You cannot hurt me anymore, Travis. Not because of the police, Not because of my son, but because I refuse to give you that power." Travis froze, not in fear, but bewilderment. He didn't understand strength when it wasn't loud. Ross finished what Evelyn started, pinning Travis's wrists and locking the cuffs in place. The square breathed relief. As deputies escorted the three men away, applause rippled slowly at first, then erupted fully, a wave of triumph washing away the last shadows of fear. Whitmore, the mayor, tried to hurry to the microphone to claim credit, but the crowd ignored him. Their eyes weren't on a politician. They were on the people who had truly protected them. Ross gestured for Evelyn to step up onto the stage. "Without you," he announced, "Evergreen Falls would remain scared. But you showed us courage is not about fists or anger. It's about heart." Evelyn's voice was soft but unwavering. "I didn't ask to be brave. I just asked to be treated with kindness. And look, this town has shown me that kindness still exists." The crowd cheered. Some cried. Michael looked at his mother, pride and love radiating so strongly that even Valor noticed and pressed closer to her leg. The Christmas tree lights flickered brighter. A choir of children began to sing Silent Night, voices pure and strong. Evelyn reached for Michael's hand. He surprised her by pulling her into a gentle embrace, one she melted into with a relieved sigh. Then she reached down and scratched Valor behind the ears. "You saved me twice now," she whispered. Valor huffed happily, tail wagging. Mission understood. Michael chuckled. "Yeah, well, he likes his job." As fireworks cracked above the tree and the sky bloomed in reds and golds, Evelyn felt tears warm against the cold. Not tears of fear. Tears of knowing she was loved, protected, and not alone. Tonight, the world seemed possible again. Hope wasn't something distant. It was standing right beside her, in a son who came home early, in a dog who guarded her like a treasure, and in a town that chose love over silence. Evergreen Falls would never forget this Christmas. Sometimes, miracles don't come as thunder or lightning. Sometimes, they come wearing a warm winter coat, leaning on a cane. Sometimes, they walk through the front door early, just in time. And sometimes, they have 4 paws, a loyal heart, and eyes that refuse to let darkness win. Tonight in Evergreen Falls, a mother found safety again. A hero found his purpose at home. And a whole community discovered that standing up for what is right is the brightest Christmas light of all. Because when we protect the elderly, when we defend the weak, when we choose love over fear, that is when God works his miracles through ordinary people. So as you go back to your own home tonight, hug your family tighter, respect every elder you see, and never underestimate the power of kindness. If you believe that God places angels in our lives, whether they walk on 2 legs or 4, then don't let this story stop here. Share this video to spread the light. Comment Amen if you believe in miracles, like this video to honor those who protect. Subscribe to join a community where every story reminds us faith can turn fear into hope, and love always has the final word. May God bless you. May he guard your home, your family, and your heart. And may every sunrise remind you, you are never alone.